Coach. Welcome back to BYU Sports Nation. How's the weather in Northern California?
It's better today. It was raining hard last night, but we got sunshine and the clear skies, so it's good.
I'm glad to hear that because it's a snowy mess here in Provo, Utah.
At least you got out.
We got out just in the nick of time.
Coach, we've been talking a lot about our expectations for BYU and St. Mary's tonight in Moraga. What do you expect to happen tonight for BYU basketball against the Gales?
Well, I think that coming in here, the win Saturday night, let's just talk a little bit briefly about the LMU win. Coming here off that win is so significantly different than if they had to absorb a loss there and deal with that mentally, that their mindset is much better today because they found a way to win that game. So, I don't know that everyone understands that, but what happens the game before oftentimes can just dictate the attitude of a team, and so that's a positive thing. They're going to have to be patient defensively. This is a team that's going to use a large portion of the shot clock, and oftentimes they'll shoot the ball at the end of the shot clock. That's not saying every time, but they are very patient, and if BYU becomes impatient defensively, starts taking chances, they just need to be really solid. This is not a team that's going to break them down off the dribble, possession in and possession out. It's somebody that's going to pass the ball. They're going to move the ball. It's an offensive team that plays within themselves. I kind of look at St. Mary's as it's more the sum of the parts than it is the individual talent. They have good players, but together they have a great team because they play together and they're experienced. So I think the key to the start is be patient defensively. Don't be risky. Don't take chances. Just rebound the basketball and then come down and play your game.
Steve, I hate watching St. Mary's because they're so patient. They don't foul. They don't turn it over. They're so, from the BYU perspective, difficult to watch because you think, how do we attack this? How do we take advantage of certain spots? So what things does BYU need to do to win this game?
Well, a couple of things. One, I think that you got to continue to play inside out. And I think don't get away from what has got you where you are today and what you have confidence in. I think the other thing they can do is change defenses. They need to find some way they can make St. Mary's uncomfortable. And Coach Rose and the staff have done a really good job of using the man-to-man, using the 1-3-1 zone, and even playing some 2-3 zone. They're going to have to get to the free throw line. You say they don't. Historically, St. Mary's doesn't. They just don't foul that much. But what will happen is, in order for them to stop Eric Mika in the post, they're going to have to double him, or there's going to be some fouls because Eric is just too strong, too aggressive to the basket. He's going to draw contact. So the formula for winning on the road against anybody is to defend, is to rebound, and get to the free throw line. This is a group that can shoot the ball. I would be really surprised if T.J. Haas and Nick Emery do not shoot the ball well. I mean, you're in a high school gym here, and as a result of that, there's no depth issues. I think they should be real comfortable shooting the basketball. But you're right about all those things. But that's kind of the formula for winning on the road no matter who you're playing.
I feel exactly the same way about Nick and TJ feeling comfortable in a gym like that, Steve. I guess we'll find out tonight against a very defensive-minded St. Mary's team. I like the matchup inside. A couple of premier big men, Eric Mika and Jock Landale. How do you see that matchup inside playing out between a couple of guys that essentially average 20 and 10?
Well, I think if you were to say, what's the difference between St. Mary's last year, a team that won 29 games. Now, they didn't get into the tournament because they didn't play much away from St. Mary's, but still they won 29 games. And they were regular WCC champions with Gonzaga. So, but they played in the NIT. It's hard to believe you can win 29 games and play in the NIT. But that being said, the reason that St. Mary's is ranked today, and everybody kind of has them in the tournament with wins over Dayton, at Stanford, and beating Nevada, is because of Jock Landale. I mean, if you just consider this for a moment. When he played last year, he played 14 minutes a game. He averaged 7.9 points per game and 3.9 rebounds. 1 year later, he's playing 28 minutes a game, averaging 17.6, 9.6 rebounds, 2 assists, and he has 14 blocks. So he is the reason St. Mary's is much better. He's the most improved player on that team, and that's going to be a great matchup. Landale is probably a better passer. in that post position than Eric, but Eric, he's stronger and he's more aggressive taking to the rim. But this will be the matchup, and really it might come down to who gets in foul trouble first, because when you take either one of those players off the respective teams, they're not the same team.
St. Mary's is fourth in the country, giving up 58 a game, which is pretty crazy. The most they've given up in a game is 72 this season. Do you think BYU can get this game into the 70s?
Yes, they can if they get to the free throw line. If it's just going to be done on jump shots, no. I mean, they can come in here and shoot 20 or 25 free throws, then yeah, they can get to 72. I think they're averaging about 84, 85 a game. But you're right. I mean, it's one of those things where St. Mary's takes great pride in that. And again, it comes back to, it's not like Nara or Rehan or, Landale, that they're all great defenders. I mean, they're all really solid. But together, collectively, they're really always in help. They're always blocking out. It's just fundamentally a very, very disciplined team. And that's, that's the nature of Randy Bennett's teams. He's always had that. And that's what makes great teams good defensively, is when they have an attention to those little details.
BYU basketball head coach from 1997 to 2005, Steve Cleveland, is with us on BYU Sports Nation. He will be on the call tonight for BYU Radio with Greg Wrubell live in Moraga. Steve, where does BYU have an advantage over St. Mary's?
I think the advantage that BYU has, starts with Eric Mika. And I think that the way that BYU has been playing, they have more confidence in playing inside out. And to be honest with you, the last time that BYU won here at St. Mary's, Eric Mika was a starting post player before his mission. And so the advantage here is that the last couple of years, St. Mary's hasn't seen a BYU team that has a post presence. And so I think the advantage is with Eric Mika, and I think it's with a more confident wings in Nick and TJ. I think they come here with confidence. I think that's the advantage. I mean, this is a confident group before they started the season. I mean, that's just the nature of it. In talking to Coach Rose last night, we were sitting there in just a shoot around. Most of these players don't really know how this game is going to play out. They've watched it on film, but to experience it. But Eric he's experienced that. And so I think the advantage is, when you say, well, you're going with the three leading scorers, but I think the advantage is that this is a very confident group coming in, but I think it all is on the shoulders of Eric Mika. Not that he has a responsibility to do things that are super, or he's got to score 40 points or something. I just think his presence there gives them an advantage that they haven't had the last couple of years. And BYU's beaten St. Mary's 4 out of the last 6 times. So it's not like they haven't beat them here. They just haven't beat them there for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's a tough place to place for sure. And it's Eric Mika's birthday, by the way. So that would be a tremendous birthday present to himself tonight. But outside of Eric Mika, who's kind of an X factor or Y factor, in your opinion, in tonight's matchup?
Well, I think that the X factor for the last 3 or 4 games has been Yoeli Childs. And I think that here is a young man that's more athletic than anybody that St. Mary's has on their team. I mean, he can go and snatch rebounds out of his area. He's strong to the ball, and I think that that's something that BYU hasn't had. That's not something that St. Mary's is used to seeing in a BYU team. So with 2 dominant post players who really rebound the basketball, I think he is the X factor. I mean, if he ends up getting 12, 14 points and another 8 or 9 rebounds, BYU wins this game if everybody else does what they normally do. But I think he's probably the X factor.
Looking at the guard matchup and specifically focusing on BYU with Nick Emery and TJ Haas, how will the Gales try and defend 2 guards that do not lack in confidence for sure?
Well, I've been thinking a little bit about that, and I'm thinking you got Nara, Rehan, and Hermisson. Now, Hermisson's 6'6", and BYU really doesn't have a true 6'6", 6'7", 3-man, so, who's going to guard who? And it may be a situation where Hermisson ends up guarding one of those 2. And, I mean, there's some quickness issues where both Nick and TJ can get by probably Hermisson on the ball. I think if I were matching up, I'd probably put Nara and Rehan on Nick and TJ, and I'd have Hermisson guard LJ. And if that's the way it goes, because I think LJ is least likely to penetrate. He's probably going to be the third option shooting the ball, and it gives Hermisson a chance to help and do things. I mean, I don't know how Randy Bennett's going to set it up, but I think Nara and Rehan, they know, they've watched the film. They're going to have a hand up and contest. watch for this game early on. If Nick or TJ are able to knock some shots down early in the first 5 or 6 minutes of this game, it's really going to open things up for Eric Mika.
BYU is a confident group, as you mentioned, before the season, going into this game after that 18-point comeback, which is the second largest comeback in the last several years, under the Dave Rose era, actually. What's the vibe you get in terms of confidence going into this game that BYU is not expected to win, but could come out with an upset victory?
Well, this is a young team, and we Coach Rose and I last night were talking a little bit about it. He said, I'm not sure they really truly understand. They're watching film, and if you watch film on St. Mary's, there's not going to be a lot of ooh and ah plays. You're not going to see a lot of play above the rim and dunks and this and that. And so I think when young teams watch film, and these teams watch a lot of film, the perception might be, well, yeah, they're okay. They're okay. But I'll go back to what I started with. It's not the individual parts, it's the sum of the parts. And one of the things that Randy Bennett has done so well during the last 26 years, he's had the kind of success BYU's had. They're winning 25 games every year. And it's not because they have the best athletes or the quickest players, but because they're so fundamentally sound. And so I think BYU needs to be careful in one respect. Don't underestimate this group. Now, I don't think they will, especially since it's a ranked team. But when young players watch film, and to watch Colorado on film or USC on film or Illinois, there's a little bit of, they've got our attention because they're playing above the rim and they're quick. This is not necessarily a team that's going to be above the rim every play or they're going to break you down off the dribble, but they're just as lethal. And so if they don't have the right mindset, they very quickly will have to readjust. But I think those are the concerns. They are confident, and if you look at the talent of BYU and you look at the numbers, the matchups are really good. I mean, it's not like one team has a mismatch somewhere. I mean, there's a lot of equality. They just play so differently and do it kind of more below the rim than above the rim.
The president, Coach Steve Cleveland, has his game face and game voice all ready to go. Listen to him on BYU Radio tonight, 11 Eastern. Coach, thanks for the time.
Great. Have a great day. Thanks, guys.